On behalf of Covalon, it's great with the Rivemont folks to be invited here. I'm really looking forward to telling you the story about Covalon and where we're at and where we're heading. So with that in mind, I will also share a very wordy CFO / legal disclaimer, and hopefully you can read it pretty quick. But Covalon Technologies, so what do we do? And you can see here, we really focus around the cost-effective healthcare solutions. So you can see some of these images here, and when you see these images, it just kind of touches at your heart. You see kids, you see these IV infusions. Some of you have probably had, and so really what we look at here is we're all involved in a couple of key areas of the med tech sector, and it's an exciting space to be in. We think we're making a huge impact, and I wish I could transport you tonight to a hospital. It's probably not where you want to go after here, but see some of our technologies being used and being put into place. I joined the company a little over a year ago, and I was really excited about the future. I've played in this space. You'll learn a little bit more about me in a second. And I was really drawn to this company for the multi-year growth opportunity that's in front of us. And so, my goal today is to really help you understand the space we play in, what we've done, where we're going, and that type of thing. And I thought, excuse me, I thought I'd start with a little bit around the investment thesis here for Covalon. And so you can see, I always start with the customer, because at the end of the day, like most businesses, if we don't have customers, we don't have a business. And our customers are hospitals, large health systems, clinics, you name it, but providers that play in the United States and all around the world. And these customers, these clinical nurses, doctors, et cetera, big challenges, really big challenges. You'll see a couple of them here in a few slides. And we solve those challenges with very protected, differentiated products. Second thing is we operate in an environment it's a really interesting time right now. Some favorable trends and a unique competitive environment. This isn't meant to be like a infectious disease seminar, so I won't go into that a whole lot of depth. But there's some trends taking place, especially in the U.S., on how some core preventable infections are kind of measured and in the U.S. system rewarded or penalized. And if you want to learn more, Google HOB, hospital onset bacteremia, and it's a shift in the way they look at how that gets measured. And we think that's going to drive a substantial increase in demand for products like our IV clear dressing you'll hear about in a little bit. And then on the competitive front, you'll see we compete with a lot of different large and small med tech players. Some of them are involved in different spin-offs. We're seeing a lot of different activity in the industry. Some are gearing up for IPOs and whatnot, but the large companies seem to be a little distracted. I love it. I love it when my competition has things that they're focused on other than going out every day, working with their customers and driving greater adoption of their products. And then the third area is around strong underlying financials. So when I came in a year ago, the company had 9 consecutive quarters of losing money. Our cash position had drained from over 20 million down to about $7 or $8 million. And the turnaround, you'll hear more about it, but the turnaround has been both rapid and pretty dramatic. I'm really pleased with the team and how they've responded. We stopped that trend of losing money. We've had 3 consecutive quarters of positive net income, positive EBITDA. And on the balance sheet, we retained the no debt that had carried with us and have almost doubled our cash position in the last couple of quarters. On the product side, we're a small fish in a big pond. And I've been all sorts of fishes in all sorts of ponds. And I really believe that small fish, large pond is the space to be. There's a lot of room for growth, right? It's tough when you're the large fish in a small or medium-sized pond. and there's really no room to grow. In Covalon's case, lots of room to grow, both product-wise, taking share, and geography-wise, entering new markets, growing in them. And then the fifth point on the investment thesis here, this is a growth acceleration that we're undertaking, and it's led by a very experienced team, and I'll segue to that and talk a little bit about them. Very fortunate. You can see some faces here. My leadership team on the right, very experienced, both large and small med tech companies, and I think it's over 100 years of experience combined between all of us. A little bit about me: Canadian born and bred. Grew up in Southern Ontario. I'm not a Leafs fan though, so don't worry. So I know the rivalry is strong. Went to school at Ivy at Western there, and then really for the last call it the better part of the last half of my working experience has been at large U.S.-based global med tech companies. So 3M Healthcare, which is now known as Solventum, they've been going through that spinoff, and Becton Dickinson, better known as BD. And you can see some of the areas that I have expertise in: vascular access, wound care. You're going to hear more about them. Total overlap with where Covalon's at, and that's been really helpful in the first year here, relying on domains that I have experience in. And so the two main areas that we're really focused on are the wound care. So both of these really strong focus on the US, but the wound care, our wound care consumables, and our vascular access and surgical consumables. Wound care, really strong over the last 5 years. We've been able to grow the business 4 times, so 4x revenue in the last 5 years. And we've done that with a very unique model where we rely on partners in the US, so a small handful of partners that take on the sales and marketing. And so it allows us a pretty low SG&A model that drives a lot of the profit for the company. On the vascular access and surgical consumable side, 4x wasn't bad, but 5x is even better. That's even growing faster. And in that one, we've got a direct model, so more of a typical med tech model of end-to-end control on the sales and marketing side. So it's a little higher cost, but growing very nicely. And you'll see, we'll talk in a little bit, but we've had a lot of success, some recent changes in the last year to really drive more with less. So you'll hear more about that. Good news, I guess this washes out a bit. It's in color, it's a little grosser, and I apologize, but this is the world we play in. Hopefully, none of your family members, none of your friends have to deal with chronic wounds, but it's a huge issue. It's a huge issue in the United States and Canada. It's a huge and growing even faster issue in some key developing countries like the Middle East and Mexico and Latin America. And it's a huge personal issue if you have to deal with it, but it's also a huge cost to the healthcare system. It's estimated in the US that these chronic wounds, almost $30 billion to treat and deal with. Complications, you can imagine when you've got these open sores that aren't healing, you get infection, it leads to amputation, sometimes death. It's just not a great way to go about. I hope you never have to deal with it. But if you do, there's a great solution. We have it. There's a lot of products in this space, but we really love our solution. It's a collagen-based dressing, and you can see some of the images there on the screen. And it really, you put it on the wound and cover it up with a cover dressing, and it kind of gels into the wound. It absorbs a lot of what we call exudate, the wound goop, so to speak. And we also have one of our products. We have two kind of main varieties, a couple sizes of each, and antimicrobial. So with silver on the dressing to kill bacteria. You can see some of the market dynamics. The market itself, the broader market, big pond. We're still a smaller fish, $2.5 billion. And last year we grew more than 50% with our revenue in this space. So significantly outpacing the market. You can see some of the competitors. How do we do it? Differentiation. Our product takes a multi-pronged approach, and that's the clinicians we deal with really like how kind of the mode of action and how it works within the wound. It's been very reliable. This product's been used on millions of patients for the last 5 to 10 years plus, and in the U.S. but also around the world. And we have a really good kind of price value. We feel we perform, and the efficacy of the product is right up there with the market leaders, but at a price that's a little bit less. We've had a lot of success with that model in the market. Flip over to the vascular access side. This is not as gory. Some of you in this room have likely had an IV at one point in your life. But the couple of big clinical challenges there. One is, you're poking a hole in the body, and anytime you do that and it's dropping into the bloodstream, there's a high risk of bugs making their way on your skin or from the device into your bloodstream. Bloodstream infections, you really don't want to get one. Best case, you end up in the ICU for 5 or 10 days with a ton of antibiotics. Worst case, you die, and the mortality rate is something like 20%. So this is a preventable complication, and it's very solvable. You'll hear more about our solution next slide. But along the way as well, there's needs for jobs to do to secure these IVs, and the clinicians want to be able to do that. If you've ever had an IV, it's secured with a dressing. But when you take that dressing off, a lot of the times the adhesives on the traditional offerings, they're very sticky, high acrylate adhesives, and you rip off layers of the skin. Sucks for all of us. You can see here we use a pediatric picture. That's where our value proposition resonates the most, and you just can't imagine the horror if you have a child in the hospital going through, getting sick sucks. Going through treatment sucks, and then you're kind of done for the day and take the dressing off, and you hear the kid scream and cry. Not good. So a lot of focus on trying to prevent that, and that's what our products do. We have a family of solutions. You can see some of them, like the top one there, prevent against those bugs getting in the IV lines, and so that's our ValGuard product. And then we have a couple of dressings, IV Clear, COV Clear, that secure that IV catheter, and one with an antimicrobial that helps prevent those bloodstream infections. But both of them have a very gentle to skin adhesive, silicone adhesive, and that's been really helpful. Clinicians, especially in the pediatric world, absolutely love it. And so you can see some of the market dynamics, kind of a typical med tech growth rates of 5 to 7% in the $1.5 billion space in the US. And we've been far outpacing that, and last year grew more than 50% as well. Again, some similar competitors. We win with differentiated novel products with that really strong value proposition. And then from a sales perspective, we've been focused on really, we don't have a large sales force today, so we have to prioritize. And it's been on high return on investment sales ends like pediatric hospitals and that type of thing. And then you'll hear a little bit more about our sales strategy: retain, grow, add. And that's captured here. Hopefully it shows up a little bit. And we had a tough decision to make about a year ago. The previous leadership team had built out a really expansive sales force. I think there was about 14 people on the team that had sales in their title. And it just wasn't generating the revenue that was needed. And so a pretty significant restructuring took place a little over a year ago. And the goal of the team, so we had to really focus a much smaller team down to 3 sales reps and a manager, really focused. Okay, what do we need to do? Well, the first thing is whenever you go through a transition like that, you can't lose your existing customers, so retain. And we did that. 98% retention of our top 50 customers in this space. And the one customer we lost was more of a portfolio decision. So, okay, great. You didn't lose business. Now we got to grow, right? So let's focus where we have relationships. Let's focus on growing them. Either if we're selling one product, how do we sell another? Or if we're in at, say, the emergency room, how do we sell into the ICU department as well with the same product? So grow that existing book of business, and an amazing job in 24. Those same top 50 customers drove 55% revenue growth. Outstanding. I don't know if there's any company in the vascular access space that's been able to attain that. And then, of course, a third priority, given limited resources, was, okay, can we add some new hospitals into the mix? And we acquired 66 new hospitals in the US. That was a 60% increase over the year before. So you add all these three things up, and it's really fueling good growth, and it's the focus going forward as well. I talked about, kind of coming in a year ago. The Covalon has been, some of you might have been investors over the years. We've had some up and down performance, but it was really key to me to focus on, okay, what are we going to do to light the spark and get things turned around? 5 key things you can see here. I talked about the commercial team. That was a tough decision, but it was an important one where we knew with the right smaller focused team we could drive really good results, and then we'll grow from there. But the previous structure wasn't working, and it was very inefficient, losing a ton of money. Bringing in some new process and rigor. So I commend the team, the Covalon team. They've done a great job of really strengthening, bringing in some just basic blocking and tackling stuff that's really strengthened how we work and how we deploy ourselves into our customers and operations and whatnot. The third piece, quality and compliance. It's important at every company, but in the med tech world, it is the cornerstone of every successful med tech company. And we really strengthened our quality. We hired a new quality manager. It's not like we didn't have good quality before, but I think we needed to strengthen kind of the approach and how are we documenting that and tracking it and trending it. And that's been a really positive change at Covalon. Brought a new culture in, key around growth and being curious and lots of other good elements there. And then the last one was, we quite honestly, as a company, we were not a good partner to a lot of different stakeholders over the last couple of years. So we repaired some relationships with customers, key customers and partners, some key suppliers, and also in the investor community, right? So it's been great to be able to connect with groups like this and talk and answer questions and be able to tell the story for the future here. So what did we accomplish with that turnaround? Okay, this actually shows up pretty good on the white background here, but really it starts with the revenue line, and here you can see significant for the full company, grew about just short of 20% in 2024. So our fiscal year end ends September 30th. So that's what I'm referencing. We just recently, a couple weeks ago, announced our Q4 results. That U.S. product focus, so the two products I talked about, or the two businesses I talked about in the U.S. market, you can see more than 60% growth in 2024, a huge increase. That's our focus going forward. On the margin side, a combination of bringing in sourcing in on manufacturing on that collagen product, as well as some benefit from product mix and selling and focusing on our most profitable SKUs, drove a really substantial increase in margins. Med tech tends to average somewhere between 55 and 65%, and we're square in the middle of that. And then the operating expenses, right? So I talked to you about that commercial restructuring, some other actions, just being mindful, making smart decisions. We've really taken the spending down substantially, both on a dollar basis and obviously, and I think that's one of the greatest stories. We grew the company 20% and reduced expenses by millions and millions of dollars at the same time. And we're still poised for some strong growth. Combine all those three together, right? Strong revenue growth, great margins, streamlining and being more efficient on the operating expense line. No surprise, what happens? Well, you turn around, right? Turn around the income line. And so you can see here, the last 2 years were really rough, losing a lot of money. We turned around, delivered a good profit this year, adjusted EBITDA as well. And then, we've had some conversations with some folks here. It's a crazy world out there, both in the U.S., all around the world. who knows what 2025 holds, macroeconomics and trade wars and you name it. But it's never been a better time to have a good cash position, no debt. And on that front, we more than doubled our cash from where we were, call it 6 or 9 months ago when we bottomed out. And so part of that was a $5.5 million warrant redemption that was like 99.6%, I think, sold through. So strong, both insiders and some other shareholders, strong participation there. So that's kind of the story of how we got to the present day. What are we focused on here on 2025 in terms of that growth acceleration? It's really 3 key things that the team wakes up every day jazzed about and driving. One is around the commercial advancement. So it would have been really easy to say, hey, that playbook I told you about, retain, grow existing, add new, just rinse, repeat, just keep doing it because it's had success. But that's, we know the competitive environment. We've got some distracted competitors, but they're still active and they're gonna continue to get more active. And so we're really focused on the commercial side around really driving harder around our key accounts and thinking differently about them, stronger partnerships. Demand generation is a key. I think we've had some good success over the years, but it's really how do we turbocharge that? How do we put that on steroids? And then also deploying technology. I think we've been a little behind the curve, so to speak, in some areas, ahead of the curve maybe in some others, but there's some opportunities there on the technology side. The middle one there is around market development, and this is a bit of a unique, commercial advancement, innovation, business development, operations apply across the board. Market development in the med tech sense, for those of you that aren't super familiar, this is all about educating your customers on a problem. For example, bloodstream infections, right? Big issue, I told you about, horrible outcomes, largely preventable. So educating them about the issue, the prevalence of it, the consequences of it, and then tying it to, in our case, a Covalon solution. So how do we do that? Well, we generate clinical evidence we work with that proves that our products solve that problem. We work with key opinion leaders or key influencers throughout the industry. These are these trusted advisors to bring them on board, work with us, advise us on our products and where to go and whatnot, but also help to educate the customer on that problem and the Covalon solution from a trusted voice. Candidly, this was not an area of focus for the company in the past, but every large and small medtech company I've worked for or partnered with, it's been a big area of focus. And so we're recharging that. We've got some exciting clinical evidence that's been generated. We can't share it because it has not yet been published in what's called a peer-reviewed journal. And so we're working to develop that, and that's going to be exciting. On the innovation front, not a big area of focus as we turn the company around. A lot of focus on kind of the sustaining work, but here in 2025, this is something we're accelerating. Huge hopper of ideas that we can do, and now the toughest decisions are how do we narrow that down and choose what are going to be the biggest ones we can continue to advance through our pipeline. And on the business development front, we've got cash, and so we've put a little bit of cash. So we'll talk about that on the operational side. A little bit of cash towards some automation and lowering product cost. But we're also looking at different opportunities, accelerating our focus on M&A type opportunities because we know that it's a changing space, and as different things come into play, there's going to be winners and losers, and we'd like to see what we could do on that front. And so those are the 3 things that are really going to drive demand for us, accelerate that, drive revenue forward, supported by optimization on our operations front. So streamlining our supply chains, I think there's a little bit of a simplification that we can put in place, and continuing to invest, like I talked about, putting some of our hard-earned cash that's in our bank towards lowering cost, improving quality, driving greater capacity, and that type of thing. Here's a little peek at our corporate and capital structure. You can read through the lines. Good, they do show up. I guess some key things. One is you see our insider ownership. Over half our shares are owned by the board. board members, and so some have been with us for quite a long time. The second, I talked about, good cash position, no debt. And, the third piece, I guess, on the share price. So you can see it's almost tripled in the year since I arrived. Awesome team effort to drive that. Obviously, our customers, the value is resonating, and we're seeing that revenue growth. But in the same vein, I still don't think we're fully understood by the market. You look at our cash position and how we compare with other, similar sector companies. I think there's a lot of room here for growth, and that's one of the reasons why we're here and talking to folks like yourself. And we're just really excited about the future. I guess I'll wrap up here. You saw solid early success from the turnaround. We are building the foundation for the future. 2024 was a good, strong year financially. I think just a long list of good accomplishments on the commercial front, operational front, on across all functions and internal and external. And then the last one, our focus is clear. We've fixed and cleaned up some challenges from the past. That still will continue to a certain extent, but we are all in on growth, very excited for it. And really, I kind of come back to that. Why did I join the company? It was I clearly see the potential for a strong multi-year growth opportunity. It's not going to be linear, right? There's going to be some ups and downs, like I think most microcaps see, but it's a really exciting future. The impact we make is just beyond just being hopefully a good stock to buy. I've had a lot of investors talk to me about, hey, my grandmother or my spouse has had to have an IV therapy, an IV infusion. They ripped off skin. It was very painful, not ideal. Wound care, it's definitely a good place to be, and it's an attractive space, and we're just really excited. So thanks for listening to me here. Merci. That's about the extent of my French, not much more. I can read a menu as well, but that's not on the cards for tonight. So thanks so much. I'd be happy to take any questions. Can't see names, sorry.
Congratulations on the turnaround, very successful. My question is regarding the statement and show the study regarding 8 out of 10 of the children with hospitals valuing your company over convention. Why do you think that's the case?
Yeah, so so that's 8 of the 10. Sorry, I didn't talk through that, but 8 of the 10 largest pediatric hospitals in the US use our products. It's really clear. We are the only, there's other competitors, right? 3M, my former employer, is one of them. And I ran that business for many years. And they make very good acrylate adhesive IV securement dressings. And they secure good, but when you go to take them off, they cause a lot of pain. They rip the skin off, and that can cause further complications. And so our value prop is, hey, we secure, we get the job done, but when you go to remove it, it's very gentle. The babies aren't going to cry, like the mothers and fathers of their newborn that's in newborn that's in the NICU, the premature baby, or the ward. Nothing worse than if you're a nurse taking off this dressing in front of the parents and the baby starts crying and there's skin on it and it turns red or bleeds. Horrible. No. Yeah, I mean that's clear. We've got some other products like our ValGuard product that are unique. There's really no other solution for it to help prevent the bugs from coming in. And no one wants to get a bloodstream infection. But the pediatric hospitals in particular, you can imagine not a great outcome it's not a great outcome for anyone, but it's especially heartbreaking when a 2-month-old baby is in the hospital, develops a preventable bloodstream infection and dies. Like I can't even imagine. And so the pediatric hospitals in particular are willing to spend more money. We also see it in oncology and adult hospitals, but particular focus on the pediatric side. Good question. Thanks for this past year. Of course, a lot of talk about this 25% tariff. I feel like we should probably go out for a beer and talk politics. It's a crazy world. My personal thought, I think President Trump is using this to probably get something he wants. Maybe it's the renegotiation of the U.S., Canada, Mexico trade agreement. I don't know that it's smart politics to impose tariffs on medical consumables, which would drive the cost of healthcare up. The U.S. government is the single largest payer in the U.S., so you'd be kind of taxing yourself. And so we'll see. But then again, it's a crazy world. Anything could happen. Every day I wake up and something surprises me. So let's play it out. If there in fact there was a 25% tariff, we figured worst case. There's lots of ways to mitigate it, but if we did nothing, it's probably a couple hundred basis points of margin, of gross margin hit to the company. But if you play it out, if they go across the board and if medical devices are included, it's probably an across the board situation. We're going to be in a trade war. Canadian dollar's probably going to fall quite a bit, and almost all of our sales are denominated in US dollars. The majority of our costs are in Canadian dollars. So worst case scenario on the tariff side plays out. We probably get a corresponding benefit in foreign currency. So we don't think we win or lose in that situation. Aside from, I don't think anyone here or anywhere around the world wants to see a trade war. So we'll see. You tell me how much. I don't know what the. Okay. I'll be around after. Happy to talk to you, answer any questions face to face. Really appreciate the time. It's great. Like I said, great to be back in Montreal, and looking forward to talking later this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.